Hello, I'm Gregory Mosley, martial art instructor, and this is Martial Art Universe, bringing you the finest of the martial arts from around the world. Point.
This ain't the Sopranos, kid. I don't care what you do on the other side of the canal. Nobody makes a fool out of Acapella. Get the back. Not that back. Get the cold cuts, the wax ones. No, not that one. Not that one either. Get the other. That's the one. Crack them.
Hello, I'm Gregory Mosley. I've been practicing the martial arts for over 40 years. The martial arts has been practiced around the world for thousands of years. Many of our martial art instructors learned their art while serving their country in the military. They came back to their communities to share their knowledge. Before the word mentoring became a popular term, these instructors were teaching the psychological, spiritual, and physical benefits of the martial arts. The martial arts teaches etiquette, humility, and follows a code of honor. Many of their students became instructors also, continuing the lessons of avoiding conflict and building confidence in their classes.
I think it really is something that develops discipline and respect.
It made me responsible. It taught me patience, discipline, self-respect, respect for others. It did a multitude of things.
It's taught me honor. It's taught me respect. It's taught me commitment. It's taught me values firsthand by some great men that actually guided me and guided the direction of my life.
Did you start martial arts and where?
It was at the University of Chicago, right over on 55th near Cottage Grove. That's one of our top schools at the University of Chicago as a gym. That's where they had it. It was the first World's Martial Arts Tournament that was being hosted by the United States Karate Association and was actually run by Count Dante John Keegan, which was one of the more popular instructors here in Chicago and probably around the world. He's well known as the deadliest man alive. He was really a guy that loved and promoted himself. So that's how I got started. They were advertising that they were going to chop a bull's horns off and kill this bull with a punch to the head. And so I didn't buy it. I said that's a crock. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But it was all over. They had the Animal Cruelty Society out there protesting, and it was really just an advertising scheme by John to get exposure for the tournament, which really worked because it was a jam-packed crowd. The place was packed. And they didn't kill the bull either. So, but it was a very exciting event. Yeah, and so that was my first event that I was exposed to karate. I had seen judo, and I knew people that was in judo at the time. Jackie Thomas, which was in the Olympics for judo, which was a friend of mine. So anyway, that was my first exposure. And after viewing the tournament, I was so very excited because they had self-defense and they had all types of demonstrations at the time. Self-defense, multiple self-defense techniques where they're fighting 2-3 men. They were breaking bricks with their hand, and it was unbelievable to see John actually punch a common Chicago house brick. You know, these house bricks here in Chicago had lead in the middle of them, and they were very difficult to break. But he was able to punch a brick in half with his hand, and also kick it in half with his foot. So that was very impressive. They had multiple self-defense, knife and gun type of technique. So it was very exciting. Me and a friend of mine by the name of Jimmy Johnson was attending. And so we decided that the next day, which was Monday, we were going to go over and visit the school. His school was located at 79th and Ashland. And it was very fortunate that he was there because at that time, no school was teaching any blacks at the time. And he was the only one at that time that taught blacks. And so we went there the next day, and I was really shocked to see that his hand was in a splint. When he had hit the brick the first time, the day before, he had broke one of his knuckles. And he had to hit the brick a second time, which did a lot more damage to his hand. But he was able to break the brick at that time. So it was very impressive. And so the school was located at 79th and Ashland. And it was there for a long time. And so that's where I got involved, and that's where I got started. That's where I started my martial arts career at Chicago Judo Karate School.
How did it affect your life as a young man growing up in Chicago, studying the martial arts?
Well, I was never a guy that did a lot of fighting. I wasn't a boxer. I didn't do a lot of boxing, but I played a lot of football, a lot of sports. I was an athlete. And I had some friends that was Golden Glove boxers. And so it gave me some confidence because after I had been in the martial arts for a few months, I was able to work with these guys and not get hit and be able to put some hurt on them for a while. So I felt very good about that. So it did give me confidence, if nothing else. I wasn't that great at the moment, but I did feel very confident that in the things that I had learned and was taught there in the school.
As a martial art instructor, what impact do you think you've had on your community?
What impact you feel that I had over the community? I think I've had a tremendous impact because I was able to bring many more people, many of our young kids into the martial arts. And the martial arts is a tremendous discipline for the children, and it's something that the kids need today. It develops confidence, it develops respect, courtesy, and discipline. So I think it has done a tremendous job. And because of me teaching through the YMCA system, once I made my black belt, I was able to bring the price down so it was affordable for every income bracket. Because at the time that I started, it was $25 a month. I think the minimum wage at that time was $1.65 or $1.25. So many of us could not afford to even study martial arts until we were involved in the YMCA, and I was the first to involve karate into the YMCA program. Martial arts did, we would meet up, we would all be staying in the same hotel, And we, after the tournament or before the tournament, we would get it together in a room and start talking about various aspects of fighting. And this Bruce was talking about he had developed this here 6-inch punch, that he can develop enough power to knock a person off of his feet. Oh, I said, Bruce, I don't buy that. I don't believe it. I don't think you can do that. And a lot of the other guys agreed. So what happened, Bruce said, well, okay. He asked this young man to stand up, and he took a pillow off of the couch, just like this couch here beside me. And he said, hold it in front of your chest and stand up around here in the back of it. And so that, and he had some other guys standing around in front of it. And he said, he took his fist and he balled it up and he moved it about 6 inches from this young man. And he hauled off and bang, next thing you know, the guy was off his feet and over the couch onto the floor. So he was really very wiry, very strong, and he could definitely deliver a hell of a punch.
You have a student you mentored named Jeffrey Williams Jr., who's also an instructor as well.
Jeffrey is one of my students, and he's been with me for about 35 years. A lot of my students have been with me for many, many years. You know, often, you know, they come by, we spend time together, and they're part of our organization. And one of the things that we did, we had a children's team. We used to do all the promotion for the Toys R Us, G.I. Joe and the Kung Fu Grip, and so we did a lot of things at Sears and Toys R Us, and we did all the promotions during that time when these new toys came out, because the kids were about, I think the youngest is 5 and the oldest was about 9, and these kids were extremely good. I mean, extremely good. Matter of fact, a couple of my kids are on Broadway today. They're dancers and they're actors. Matter of fact, another young kid by the name of Ted Love, he was in the movies. He did Hoodlum, and so you know, I think it is something that develops discipline and respect for the youth of today.
You also met Bruce Lee.
Yes, I did.
What was that like?
I met Bruce several times. The first time I met him was in Los Angeles at Ed Parker's tournament. I had just won the Grand National Championship in Kansas City. I took first place in fighting and second place in kata. And I had taken 2 train cars down to Kansas City to compete in the tournament. Matter of fact, they gave us a big write-up in the Sun-Times paper and Tribune paper here in Chicago when we won, because we won the majority of the trophies. My school here is a black school that's taking 2 train loads down to Kansas City and winning the majority of the trophies. And by me winning both first place in fighting and second place in kata, I was appointed to be captain of the team to go out and fight at Ed Parker's tournament in Los Angeles. And so when we determined that Bruce was there doing a demonstration of his speed punching, him and a guy by the name of Victor Moore did a demonstration, and that Victor could not stop Bruce's punching techniques. So that happened, and as a matter of fact, it's been on a lot of the different martial arts shows between Victor and Bruce, but Bruce was extremely fast, very wiry, and very strong for a guy of his size. But that was the first time that I met Bruce. I also had an opportunity to meet him in D.C., where I got pictures of myself and Bruce and his wife and his son Brandon. So I've met him several times, and he was quite a nice guy. One of the things that a lot of the martial arts did, we would meet up. We would all be staying in the same hotel, And we, after the tournament or before the tournament, we would get together in a room and start talking about various aspects of fighting. And this Bruce was talking about he had developed this here 6-inch punch, that he can develop enough power to knock a person off of his feet. Oh, I said, Bruce, I don't buy that. I don't believe it. I don't think you can do that. And a lot of the other guys agreed. So what happened, Bruce said, well, okay. He asked this young man to stand up, and he took a pillow off of the couch, just like this couch here beside me. And he said, hold it in front of your chest and stand up around here in the back of it. And so that, and he had some other guys standing around in front of it. And he said, he took his fist and he balled it up and he moved it about 6 inches from this young man. And he hauled off and bang, next thing you know, the guy was off his feet and over the couch onto the floor. So he was really very wiry, very strong, and he could definitely deliver a hell of a punch. So that's the second time we met. But we would often meet at every tournament in different locations. You know, and I did travel around the country a lot of times. We go to New York, we go to D.C., we go to Kentucky, we go to St. Louis, we go to Michigan, Indiana. So we traveled around the country. But at that time, I was one of the top competitors in the country, and I was also chief instructor for the United States Karate Association as well.
Currently in major cities like New York, LA, and Chicago, there's a problem of young people joining gangs. How do you think martial art training would help correct this problem?
Oh, as far as how karate would correct some of the problems that the youth have here in the city, I think the structure of martial arts, the discipline that it demands, and the focus that the child has to learn to have, and we hopefully help them to learn to make decisions, the proper decisions, because everything in martial arts is structured to be on the positive side. You know, the discipline, the respect, how you treat your fellow man. So I think it's one of the best tools that we can have and give to the youth in our communities. And as far as I'm concerned, it has definitely did more good than harm for the youth of the city, especially in the inner city.
You've started your own style, and you've also written books.
Right. Well, as far as writing the books, how that came about, I had no thoughts at the time about writing a book, but Master Trias asked me to develop a style. You know, I had when I first made my black belt, he made everybody write a 25-page essay and send it to him as part of their black belt promotion. He was so impressed with my 25 pages that everybody that went to school, he would show it to, and they would talk about it. So I was very happy because he was very impressed. Here's a man that was the founder of American Karate that was interested in something that I had wrote. But so he later asked me to, we were teaching Shorei Goju. It was a Japanese or Shotokan style of fighting. And he felt that we in America did not have a style that we can call our own. You know, most of the styles are designed around the physical characteristics of the people of the country. Your Kung Fu style, whereas your Chinese people were very small, didn't have the bulk or a lot of strength. So therefore they had a soft style. Your Taekwondo or your Korean people had put a lot more emphasis on kicking techniques. And they had long legs and they could use their feet. And this is why in their tournaments they give you 3 points for a kick and 1 point for a punch. So the styles are designed that way. And we as America, we had good strength, we had good speed, good muscular body. So therefore we can do a lot more than the average person that's focused on just 1 or 2 aspects of it. Plus on top of it, I had studied judo, jiu-jitsu, karate, and aikido. by working in the Y, judo was often part of the culture. And many of my friends in the martial arts had studied Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu. So I had an opportunity to learn many of the various styles of martial arts, because no one style determines can do everything. So that's why I was very much involved in doing a lot of techniques, and I would do a lot of grabbing, a lot of sweeping, a lot of throwing, a lot of takedowns. So I started to develop the style that he asked me to do. Is I call it the universal karate system. When it is universal, sort of encompassed all of the various styles, because we had the body that would allow us to do that. And so therefore, that's when I developed the universal karate system. It took me 3 to 4 years to put this system together. And Master Trias sort of became disenchanted. How he didn't feel at the time that he wanted to go through with it. But after me spending 4 years working on it, I said, well, listen, I'm going to stay with this here. And at that time, that's when I resigned my post from the United States Karate Association. At the time, I was chief instructor and state representative for the United States Karate Association. And I told him that I could not, I didn't feel that I wanted to give up all the time and effort that I had put into trying to formulate this style, which really suits us as Americans, because we have the body that can adapt to that particular style of fighting. So that's how, and I didn't write the book until a little later, because I wanted to have it in writing so that people would understand it. Because if you just do it piecemeal, people would never really appreciate the style or the system. So it took me another 2, 3, 4 years working on the book, writing the book, in order to put it out in black and white. So, we had the katas and the self-defense and all those things in it. And you need to have some structure and ability to get it to the masses. And that's what I did. And that's the book there on the table. It's called A Path to Knowledge in the Martial Arts. And so I did get the book out. It's been out for about 4 years now, and it's been selling very well. I have this love for the martial arts, and in a way, I'm very disappointed in what I see out there today in the martial arts. Many of us so often, it takes the American people to mess up something too. The Japanese has always had focus on the art, not so much the money. Here in this country, it's always about the money and about discipline. We, especially in our communities, we don't have a lot of people with a lot of money to spend, extra money on sports and things of that nature, because martial arts can become very expensive. And so therefore, it became almost like a babysitting. They send them there and they tell the kids that they're great, which they might not be, and it's all about keeping them coming. So a lot of the schools today is like babysitting, which has really turned me off to that. And I have always said we need to have more structure, and we need to have one set of rules. Right now here in this country, we must have 25 different sets of rules. And that's one of the reasons why the Koreans got into the Olympics and we didn't. Because they did have one set of rules. And so, in structure, they stuck together, and it's very difficult for us here in this country to stick together. So hopefully that will change. Matter of fact, we're working on some things now for coming up for this next Olympic. Hopefully martial arts, karate will be into it, not taekwondo. And for those that don't know what Taekwondo is, that's Korean karate. Because we got a lot of different styles in karate. You got Kung Fu, you got Okinawa, you got Shorei, you got Kempo. You got many different styles of karate. And the styles are all designed around the physical characteristics of the people of the country that developed the style.
Training in the martial arts.
So you started in 1968 training in the martial arts?
I started in 1968 training in the martial arts at the age of 10.
At the age of 10, usually kids are playing with other things and thinking about basketball, I guess. So what made you want to study martial arts?
Two reasons. Growing up in the streets of Harlem, the only child, and I saw a demonstration I'll never forget. It was Tom Dojo. We went on a bus outing, Pegleg Bates, and the Wilder twins actually did a martial arts demonstration, self-defense, and fell in love with it. I actually remember coming home and like begging my parents to put me in the martial arts. Just first time ever seeing it.
Okay, what instructors influenced your training? I know you studied with Grandmaster Cofield.
I studied with Grandmaster Cofield, Grandmaster Thomas the Puppet, Master James Cooper, Professor B, Professor Powell, and they all played an instrumental role in my life. Professor Ed Pugh, very instrumental in my development as a young man and as an adult.
And the training was hard when you were at Tom Dojo. I remember Tom Dojo strike fear in everybody's heart when they used to go to tournaments.
And you know, growing up in it, it didn't seem hard. It was just different. It was new. I had no clue what it was involved around it, and never experienced any time in other dojos. It was like my first experience. I loved it. I just simply loved it.
Okay. Do you think your training in Tom Dojo in the martial arts influenced the way you live your life now and the way you live your life as you were coming up?
Most definitely. It's taught me honor. It's taught me respect. It's taught me commitment. It's taught me values firsthand by some great men that actually guided me and guided the direction of my life.
You had a nickname when you were competing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Look Up. Look Up actually started prior to me competing. I was 12 years old. They couldn't tell whether my eyes were open or closed when I was going up down the floor training. In competition, you eventually end up looking up at me, you know, with sweeping techniques and counter techniques. It became my nickname. I kind of lived up to it.
And do you think there'd be less gun violence among our youth if they were training in martial arts?
There would definitely be less gun violence if our children were taught the same things we were taught as martial artists, just valuing the life, the principles, the dedication to hand-to-hand combat as opposed to pulling a gun out and squeezing it, just standing in front of another human being and the best man wins.
Can you tell me about your company, the Sledge Group?
The Sledge Group, Inc. is a community-based nonprofit, 501c3. We started approximately 16 years ago. My wife and I started this program out of the necessity of the needs of our community. We were both taught not to complain about situations, to actually do something about it. And it's expanded to Albany. We actually started this year in Albany. We do free mentoring, free tutoring, free parent support group, but a lot of group and one-on-one mentoring. And we're working out of Harlem on 125th Street in Trevor Medical College.
Where do you see the Sledge Group going in the future?
I definitely see it becoming a national program. And just like the birth of it, it's coming out of the needs of the community and our families and our culture. From Chicago to Detroit to LA, it's needed.
Do you think it seems to be a problem among our youth as far as self-worth? A lot of them want to join gangs because they want to belong to something.
Right.
Do you think training in the martial arts will help them have a sense of being kind of like their own boss, being a leader instead of a follower?
Well, you know, when I think about our martial arts training, I think about the self-value it gave us, the self-esteem it gave us, the self-worth it gave us. That's definitely lacking in the young people's community, in the young people in the community I come from and the community I live in. And without even realizing, we might have been training for one aspect of learning the martial arts, but we gained that self-esteem. which is so much needed, and that's self-respect.
What age did you start training in martial arts?
Oh, I started when I was like 12. My first lesson was in the boys' bathroom of PS 75 on 96th Street.
What you said, the boys' bathroom?
Yes, the boys' bathroom. I'm supposed to be in class, but I was in class in the boys' bathroom.
Training in martial arts, huh?
Yes,
And what age was that again?
12.
12 years old?
Yes.
You continued to take classes after that?
Yes, what happened was I ended up on my own, and I used to shine shoes on the corner of 47th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. And I used that to pay for my lessons. My second teacher was named Ken Lee, and that was Korean style karate. And we got into a disagreement, and at that time I ended up with Aaron Banks, New York Karate Academy. And I was there ever since.
Aaron Banks was your grandmaster for a long time.
Oh yes, 1968, come to think of
How
it.
do you think training in the martial arts changed you?
It made me responsible. It taught me patience, discipline, self-respect, respect for others. It did a multitude of things.
Grandmaster Ernest Hyman, Japanese Goju-Ryu Karate.
This is Professor Ernest Hyman. He's a 10th degree red belt. He's doing a form, kata, called Seunchi. This is a Japanese Goju kata. Ernest Hyman is a champion over 50 times. He has won many tournaments, over 200 times as champion, grand champion. He's been at Madison Square Garden. He's been all over the world demonstrating what he knows.
He has won tournaments in breaking. He has won tournaments in weaponry. He has won tournaments in forms and kata. He has won countless tournaments in fighting. He is one of the best.
Yeah, you participated in a series of demos at Madison Square Garden.
Yes. Yes. I also had my teacher's request, and I did the ice break and the nunchaku. You know, and the reason why I started doing the iron palm technique was because the 5 fingers of death. Because everybody that was in the movies saying that that was an impossible technique. So I perfected it to show them that it can work.
He's called the fastest man in the world. In fact, he is the fastest man in the world as far as the nunchaku is concerned.
That was just a warm-up. Now, the amazing speed of Grandmaster Hyman.
Now you will demonstrate overhead, underhead, all the different techniques. And all these are strikes, by the way, all striking an opponent.
He's now going to do double nunchucks.
Nunchaku, an Okinawan weapon, a farming tool, used as a weapon.
Yeah, those are the good old days.
So you teach the mental aspects of the martial arts as well that can help
Yes.
someone cope with everyday life situations. Help
Yes.
people cope with everyday life situations.
Yes, that goes under the heading of discipline, determination, and patience. And the other heading, no is not an option, can't's not an excuse.
So you think the martial arts would help some of these kids, help some of them not join a gang?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. I think the reason why children join a gang because they want to belong, and gangs are more prevalent than good martial arts schools.
And do you think that helped them put down the guns?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because they see the teacher doesn't carry a gun, so they wouldn't carry on. If they follow the teacher's principle, they wouldn't have to carry a gun.
Tell me about your Harlem Classic that you've been running for many years.
Oh, the Hyman Classic?
Yes.
Oh, I was a little vain at the time, and I started running the Hyman Classic, named after myself. And I've done so far 18 of them. And it's basically a fundraiser for the Harlem Karate Institute because it's a non-for-profit organization. We became non-for-profit July 3rd, 1980. We've been in existence since 1968, was when it was first founded. And someone told me that because I was funding it myself, they said that I should become a non-for-profit. So I did. And we were funded by city and state for about 14 years.
Okay. So you've been continuing to mentor students in Harlem, and they probably will become black belts and mentor their students as well.
Yes.
Your style is Goju.
Japanese Goju, yes. I also created my own system, the Mokobushi system, which is I created in 1986.
But you're not only a sensei, a master grandmaster, but you've mentored thousands of students.
Yes. And out of the thousands of students, I've only given out 13 black belts. Actually, the gentleman on the floor is number 13.
Get into it now. Warrior status. You're breaking somebody up, that's trying to break you up. What's up? And then remember, when you do kata, you're not fighting the person that you're in front of. You're fighting everyone that's looking on. They're saying, damn, I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you fight, that's what you're doing. Again! Feel it. Feel it.
My three sons are 11, 12, 10, 11, 12. Yeah.
So do you think society, the way things are today, do you think young people could really benefit from the discipline and stuff that the martial arts teaches?
Yes, I do think so. If they if they went to the right schools, they could do it. There's so many schools out here that's popping up now. They don't have any foundation, and they may not get what they're supposed to get. You know, I think people who go to a martial arts school should at least check out the credentials, the foundation, the lineage, and also whatever it is that they're teaching, track that down before they sign on the dotted line.
So you continue to mentor even now?
Yes. Like I tell my students, they need me, but I need them just as well, because it's a give and take situation. I teach them, and whatever I teach them, I get to analyze it because it comes back at me. And that's how I learn every day. So I'm still learning.
They told me that I would never make it. Trust and believe that I believe what they were saying. It was no rush, so all it took was patience. You devil, you can't stop me, cause guess what? I made it. There's a blessing I was given. No one can take it. Faith is my chain. No one can break it. Struggle was on my walls, but still I faced it. God fed me the word, so I ate it. Hold up, let me rewind back. With the Bible as my pocket and the word as my stacks. They say racks on racks. I just sit back, think about it, laugh at that. I stand tall with my back against the wall with my head up. I will never fall, I will never fall, I will never fall, I will never fall. Cause I stand tall with my back against the wall with my head up. I will never fall.